Man, stop leaving the control in these women's hands. Like, I feel like even if my dad wasn't in my life, I would want to know that my dad went tooth and nail. Like, a lot of men be like, I don't want the government involved and da 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 da. So you rather deal with all this and not see your child? I always say, like, people, when I see men that think like that, I'll be like, oh, so you like the commitment of a family without the responsibility. You know what I mean? You like the look of a family without the commitment to a family. Because ain't nobody stopping me from being a mom. And I'm not going to stop my kids' fathers from being a dad. So, men, if you are having a problem, or even women, this could be, I don't want to generalize it, but 9 times out of 10, men are like, oh, she tripping, she won't let me see my son, and da da da. Go to court, pay them warrants, or whatever you fearful of going to the court for. They ain't gonna lock you up. Judges be wanting to see a parent step up and want to be involved. Like, you might not want to get the courts involved, but your kid is going, and they always say the truth always comes to the light. Fight for your kids. So I just want to be very clear. Everybody's solo or single parenthood may look different. I have a lot of people that I know that are married and be like, I feel like I'm a single mom. Like, even though I'm single, I believe in love. I love love. I desire to be married one day. I saw a post. I think they were like, fellas, be honest. What's the reason why you and your baby mom didn't work out or whatever? And a lot of people were in there was like, I didn't know how she was going through postpartum. I thought she was just tripping.
Today's guest is a mom of three, lover of coffee, health and wellness, and a love for God. She's also a video creator, and I want to talk about her YouTube channel as well because I have some questions. Bravehearts community, let's show some love to Jatan. How are you doing this evening?
All is well. Glad to be here. Hi, everybody.
Awesome, awesome. Uh, First of all, what inspired you to create the YouTube channel?
I first started creating my YouTube channel like during the pandemic. Like you said, I'm a mom of three. I relocated from Delaware to Georgia. So it just started off as a journey of trying to teach people things that were never taught to me, and just also educating my kids at the same time. So going from having bad credit to getting myself into a position of being able to finance my second home, being able to take like a leap of faith and move from Delaware to Georgia during the pandemic, with all these uncertainties going on, just taking a leap of faith. Like I always say, you have not because you ask not. And just growing up in a generation of where you really had to figure some things out on your own. A lot of things was not taught to me. A lot of things as a woman was not discussed with me. So when it comes to my kids, I am that example. I'm like, I feel like God put me through so many things so that I could share that with my daughters as well as any and everyone else. So yeah. Whatever, it could be something very small. I'm like, okay, washing my clothes, I learned this. Like, did y'all know? I'll be 40 in a couple days. So it's like certain things, information is everything to me. So I'm always taking it from that standpoint of, okay, I didn't know this. So who else didn't know this? So
Mhm. Oh, I love it. I wanted to ask you about your relocation journey and what inspired you to take that leap of faith.
to be honest with you,
Yeah.
fear caused me to take that leap of faith. So, like I said, I relocated during the time of the pandemic. I work in banking, and at the time we were in office. And once the pandemic hit, like I always talked about certain things. And when people say your words carry power, believe them. Like I'm a faith God fearing, believing woman. And it's like anything throughout my life that once it leaves my tongue, it's happening. So I spoke about relocating as a child, as a teen, and it was during the pandemic that it happened. My middle daughter, she unexpectedly lost her grandmother. She was the matriarch of her family. And my dad, who lives in Delaware, he is currently married. I have three other siblings, two with my dad, and then well, three was my dad, and then two, we have the same mom and dad. So knowing that my mom is the single one, she lives in Alabama. I'm like, Alabama's no offense to anybody that's on here from Alabama, but I'm like, Alabama was out of the question. We used to go there every summer. So I was like, Georgia would be like the focal point. I knew I would be the only one that would have to pick up and leave in the event anything happened. Like the pandemic just had me operating from a place of fear, losing my daughter's grandmother. Like, I'm just like, okay, let me try to reconnect with my mom because we bonded over trauma for so long. Like, so many things have happened to me, but I always just knew I was that go-to person for her. Like, I felt like I was an overachiever, had to make her proud, things like that. So that's how I ended up relocating to Georgia. Once my manager told me, like, hey, you have our blessing. However, our department is not there.
Yeah.
It was a go. It was a go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm. For sure. No, totally understand. I think sometimes fear, I think, a little fear is healthy, right?
absolutely. Yes. I use the example like because like I said, I believe in God and I read my Bible and some people say, "Oh, you're not supposed to have fear." Think of it from health class when you learned about drugs and all that. That was a healthy fear. Like, those things when you learn about how drugs can impact and impair you in different ways,
Mhm.
those were all the things that be like, okay, I'm not drinking, I don't smoke or anything like that. That was enough healthy fear for me.
I know that's right. Yeah, that's true. Because there's a scripture that says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom." So I believe that's in Proverbs. So
Yeah.
there's some healthy fear that we should have. I totally get it. Uh, what is life like for being a mom of three girls? How do you balance motherhood and then self-care for yourself?
So to be honest with you, I'm still working home from I'm still working from home. So
Mhm.
I feel like it would be a little bit different. My kids have the version of me that I didn't have growing up. So it's kind of I had to set up different routines, even with the unexpected. I feel like the biggest challenge for me is being at multiple places at different times. Still struggle with mom guilt. I hear all the time, like, girl, I don't know how you do it. I'm like, this is not a life that I want people to think is glamorous. I don't want people to feel any type of way if they're not able to live up to my expectations. Like, a lot of times I'm operating off of guilt,
Mhm.
stuff like that. So just to be transparent, it's not easy. Like I gave birth to two kids, my 15-year-old and my 12-year-old. And then I recently completed the adoption of my 6-year-old who I had since she was 2 days old. So just having those age gaps, just being very transparent with them. I raised my kids like growing up, I was always told because I said so.
Mhm.
Where with my kids now, I'm like, okay, I'm not always right. And I'm also learning and pivoting through how I interact with them because they're still their own individual. So I just want to make sure that, and it's inevitable. Like, you can have all the love, care, support in the world and still come out and be like, oh, she wasn't this, she wasn't that. So I'm just trying to navigate because I'm like, when you get out here in the real world, you're not going to have nobody that's going to fluff you up and all that. You got to have that within you. So I think it's just by being transparent, let my kids know that I'm human, that I make mistakes, I fall short, and we're gonna get up and keep it moving.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
real. Yeah, this is a safe space. No judgment. I'm glad that you're being transparent because, and I talk to my wife about this sometimes. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, because from what I see, I don't hear single moms talk about the challenges that comes with it. A lot of times I see it like kind of like glorified on social media, opposed to the real conversations, the real day-to-day life. I mean, I hear it. I mean, my wife and I, we have three kids here, two of them with autism, and it is madness.
Yeah, yeah.
You
And,
know,
and let me just say this, and I might be the villain. I might be the villain.
it's okay. That,
Okay.
that, that makes two
Uh,
of us.
but let me just say this as well. I'm a single mom from the standpoint that I don't have a spouse. Okay. However, I'm not a single parent. I say solo parent because of the distance in between, but my daughters, their dad is still involved, still in their life. The only difference is the distance. So throughout this whole process of me relocating, I've been single now for 4 years. And I had to do a lot of work. A lot of people would try to push you into relationships. Like I told you before we connected that I was always having somebody on the sideline before I would even heal from that. And in order to be able to successfully move on without bringing the same traumas and all that other stuff into relation, you got to give yourself time. You get what I'm saying? So the distance, and like I say all the time, like you always hear about the bitter baby moms or the bitter people and all that. Being as though I relocated with my kids' fathers could have fought me with that. You get what I'm saying? Like they could have been like, "Oh no, you're not doing that." They could have made it very hard because I was thinking selfishly. I was thinking about being there for my mom, not really thinking about how they showed up as a support system for my kids and all that. I'm seeing that now, but in that moment, I was being very selfish, not intentionally, but if we call a spade, that's what it was. You know what I mean? Like, oh, well, I'm the one with them 24/7, but some men think like, oh, well, I'm a provider. And during that time, my kids were young. They're not small like that forever. So life happens, they go up to Delaware in the summertime. Their dads come down as often as they possibly can. So I just want to be very clear. Everybody's solo or single parenthood may look different. I have a lot of people that I know that are married and be like, I feel like I'm a single mom. Like I'm still so the immature part of me used to be like, I could do bad by myself. Like I can't sit up there and hold on. But then the reality, I remember seeing a clip from Michelle Obama where she was like, for the first 10 years of her and Barack's relationship, she hated him. He coming home smiling from golf, like kiki kiki. Meanwhile, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, but she was like, your kids are but that small. And that was like the light bulb that went off for me. I'm like, I'm always trying to look for an exit out instead of sitting up there going, because you're going to have trials and tribulations throughout anything, and nobody's going to have 100% of everything that you're looking for in a person. And it's about enduring those things, talking about those things, being mature about those things, having those uncomfortable conversations to pivot and do what works for y'all. We got social media now. Like I've had the experience being 39 in a couple of days of having the world with and without social media.
Yeah.
So we see how differently we can think and all the other things, but I'm grateful for the beginning and the where we are now with that. But yeah, so I just want to point that out that I'm a single person because I'm not in a relationship, but I definitely have the help and support and the backings from my kids' fathers or whatever.
Got you. And that's and we really don't hear that a lot either, right?
Right.
As far as, with the dads and sometimes because relocating can be a lot because even with my daughter, I have a 21-year-old daughter, and even when I remarried, I relocated. And so I didn't get my daughter until like a year later. So it was just like it was this whole process. I had to pay child support and alimony for a year. It was crazy.
Yeah.
I ended up getting her from 16 to 18
Okay.
to make sure she graduated and stuff like that. So um, she got to see me, in a previous marriage and being remarried. And that was a whole conversation piece, that whole relocation with your child. So
Mm-hmm.
I hear you, but I don't think we talk about that enough either, though. Relocate.
Yeah, and I just want to highlight because I'm the type of person that I'm a girl's girl. I'm a girl's girl, but I'm also coming from a place of accountability. It's not always the men and it's not always the women. So I feel like it's very important that we start having those conversations because we're not the end all be all. We're the mothers, but we're not always the end all be all. And you got to take that into relationships don't work. But how is that person as a parent? They might not have been a good girlfriend, they might not have been a good boyfriend, but how do they show up for your kids? And you also just got to keep in mind They might not do things by the book like you do, but that's a part of taking accountability. This is a person that you chose to have kids with. So at the end of the day, you got to take some type of accountability and give them space in the room to grow where, like you have had.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, I agree because, and I like what you said, they might not have been a great boyfriend or girlfriend or even a spouse, but they were a good parent. And it could be vice versa. They probably
right,
could have been a great boyfriend, girlfriend, but they sucked as a parent.
right.
So and I think that's a conversation too. Like how do you know if somebody's going to make a great parent or not? Because you
And come from a good family. You can know what I'm saying? Like I pride myself. I have an older brother and now my younger sister. They both are the only ones outside of me that have kids. So I pride myself on being an aunt. My niece was just here. I'm like, girl, let's go shopping. Like, I pride myself on being a family person. And that came from like my dad. We didn't get to see my grandparents as often. So even when I lived back in Delaware, what was one more girl to come around? You know what I mean? So that's how I used to look at it. I had my niece more than her dad did. Like, so having a good family and backing, all that makes a difference in a child's upbringing. Like, my whole logic and my mindset is the more people that love my kids, the merrier. Now, I am very protective because I went through trauma and I went through essay as a child. You get what I'm saying? From a family member. So I'm still very protective when it comes to my kids and who they're around. But I pray for discernment. And usually when I'm like, nah, that don't look right, that don't feel right, I'm going with my instinct.
Yeah,
So
yeah. No, I get it because of course you can't leave your kids to everybody, and I get it because mom,
mhm.
y'all have that instinct.
Yeah, yeah,
Like something ain't not right here. But I do like what you talk about as far as community. I think that's very important. People that you can trust.
right.
People who have your back. And again, I think it takes a village. It really does. Like it's so hard
Absolutely.
to do it by yourself. Can it be done by yourself?
Of
Yes.
course. It can, but even like you said, like with your situation, you guys are managing. Every day might not be rainbows and sunshine, but you get up and do it again,
Yeah.
so it
Hmm.
could be done.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I didn't expect for us to have autistic kids back to back. That wasn't in the cards, but
Hmm.
here we are. So
You
uh,
was one of the strong soldiers.
yeah, and I did a whole series on it on autism beyond a diagnosis,
Hmm.
and I had other people come on the show and we talked about that and like the struggles, the things that come with it. And even okay, I don't want to get into rabbit trails, but I realized that I didn't get the responses from men that I thought I would get about finding out if their child have autism or even if they're willing to discuss that. Because a lot of guys in their head, they're thinking one thing, like, oh, my son's gonna play football or he's gonna be a basketball player, and then he might be autistic. And
But from you sharing that, it sounds like a lot of the reasons as to why I share things. All it takes is one person.
yeah,
And a lot of times, like even just coming from my generation, like I felt like people had these silent expectations of me as far as like, oh, like I hear all the time, oh, you can cook, like why you ain't got no man? We gotta find you a man. That ain't for everybody. And one thing I don't want to do is be the cause that somebody need therapy after me. You get what I'm saying? So I feel like a lot of times, and I know I'm not trying to generalize this, but a lot of times men are not as in tune as women are. Women are usually the ones to be like, okay, my child is not developing this way. Like, a lot of times men like, oh, they all right, they just they're behind, like they're very old school. Men are very set in their ways, whereas women we're constantly changing, we're constantly evolving, we're constantly thinking of like the next thing. And
mm,
that could be a good thing or a bad thing. But I think by you having those conversations, now people could be like, okay, yeah, Johnny was acting
mhm,
weird, like, and not even saying that it's weird, but
Of course.
you look for certain milestones. So when people sit up there, like I think that now that it's such a big conversation, I think that more people will start coming out. And like I said, all it takes is sometimes one person
Yep.
to make you feel comfortable enough to sit up there and advocate for your kids because they can't do it for themselves.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, and that's a yeah, and and that's a whole conversation. We'll shelf that. We didn't want to get on here and talk about autism, but we just kind of
Hey,
that. What strategies do you use to stay motivated and balanced when things get overwhelming?
so I've had a lot of challenges, highs and lows.
Mhm.
I dealt with like being anemic. I've dealt with just recently having a hysterectomy. Um, I've dealt with feeling like I got to plan my whole year. And one thing that I've learned is God gonna put it in there what He needs to. Like I'm not in control. So just knowing how to surrender and just take things day by day. Like some of the things that I tried to do just being so busy. My kids are all in different schools. They have different schedules. They leave the house at different times. I get up at 5 o'clock every morning. I read the Bible. I do my workout. I listen to my praise and worship. I sit in the garage sometimes. Like if they come in
Mhm.
the house and they turned up. So if you ever wondering, like, what do people be in the garage? We breathing, okay? Like, so those are like different things that I do for myself just so that I can kind of pour back into my cup. And sometimes it might be 15 minutes, it might be 20 minutes, but I feel like my kids are in tune to know like the difference. Monday through Friday, I might be wore out like a dress in church. But then on a weekend, I'm like, okay, I start to have that mom guilt. Let's get out. Let's go outside. Let's go touch some grass. So I feel like I build them up to know like this is just temporary. This is just the season that we in right now, and there's a time and a place for everything. So those are just like things that I try to set in place for like me and my family. And another thing, I don't share a lot of things with them. Like I might sit up there and be playing into my head, like we can right go see some Christmas lights. I don't like telling them because I'm human. And if I don't feel like doing it, I don't want to sit up there and be like, oh, you always making promises because I see that. Like with my oldest daughter, her dad had promised to give her something. And I'm like, you got to realize that your word is your bond sometimes. And you got to stand on that. Like, you got to make, like, don't commit to something. Don't tell her you're going to do something because that develops people that have trust issues. You know what I mean? So, those are just like things that I cling to and I incorporate just so that we are all on one accord in my household.
No, I get it. Yeah, I mean, sometimes I'll sit in the driveway and I get home from work.
I'm
You know,
telling you.
and the majority of the time is like, I had to pick the kids up from school, so I'm leaving work, going straight to their school to pick them up. But when I do have that moment by myself, because there are times my wife be like, you know what, you just need a break, and I'm just
Mm-hmm.
okay. I'm like, that's what's up. Like, thanks. And I also wanted to talk to you real quick about, you talked about women growing and evolving and paying attention to everything, and I had a reel that went viral. You know who Sterling K. Brown is? The guy that was on This Is Us, black guy, the glasses.
Probably if I
Yeah.
see. See,
Yeah.
I hold on to people characters.
Okay. Yeah, I forgot his name. I forgot his name. If y'all watching this, yeah, tell me his name in the show in the comments below. I keep forgetting his name on the show. But anyway, his wife, they have a podcast, and she talked about this term called invisible labor. And I shared it, and I think it had over like 4 million views. And so many women were talking about this invisible labor and my wife was telling me this for years. She just couldn't put a word to it. And she was saying all the things that need to be done, from the mental piece, from
Mm-hmm.
getting the kids dentist appointments, from their physicals, their checkups, all these different things. What are we going to eat for dinner? The stuff that goes on in their head, in women's head, that haven't been materialized, but it will be, but it starts up here first.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and
I
some,
saw that video
oh,
and
you did?
I saw
Okay.
that video and I you put like by you speaking about that, by you sharing that, that put a title to it. Because again, like you don't know certain things. Like now there's a term for everything. You get what I'm saying? Like it's something I didn't know that by me being anemic, eating ice, that was called pica. Like you crave
Hmm.
things that have no nutritional value. I'm just like, leave me alone. This eating ice make me nice, but I saw that and that's so true. And men are just like do 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 do, like go with the flow. Where do you need me to come in? And women get frustrated with that. Like I hear people that are like first time moms, and I'm like, they don't have those. Like we're in tune because I think that we're the ones that carry the child. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's naturally the role that we've had for so long. And I even commend my sister as a first time mom. Like she's like, dealt with postpartum. And I was like, maybe I even dealt with that because again, that was not something that was heard of. I'm operating out of things just got to get done. And if I don't do it, it's not going to get done. I have the flexible job to where I could take off, I could leave my job, I could make up the time and all that other stuff. Whereas, I used to envy like my partners for not being able to do that because my mom wasn't the one. My dad, when I would get sick at school, my dad was leaving work.
Mm.
Whenever something was going at school, my dad, I tell people all the time, like our relationship is a lot better now. But I always tell people I could still be in high school to this day, and my mom would never know. She never asked to see a report card. She never asked how my grades were. And I just kept trying to live up to, like, I'm proud of you. And when I would express this or when I was saying this in therapy or whatever, somebody was like, well, does she know this? Like, I talked to your mom. She said that she's proud of you, but she's saying that to you. Like, I need to hear that. You get what I'm saying? So I just make sure, even the littlest things, my daughter jump up. And I'm like, girl, I make a big deal out of everything. Like if y'all ever see like my stories on my Instagram and stuff like that, it could be the littlest thing, and I'm clapping them all up
Yeah.
when it comes to that.
That's what's up. I love it. Yeah. Yeah, because that invisible labor is real. And that took some years. My wife and I have been married for 7 years. Yeah, we just passed 7 years this year. And
Congratulations.
it took, thanks, and it took us some years to actually just like be in sync with
Yes.
how we want this to go. And then dealing with postpartum, like my wife had back-to-back kids and stuff like that. And like there's so much that I think we don't discuss in terms of relationships. And then when kids are involved, there's, from the invisible labor to how we're going to make our household run effectively.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times women get frustrated and pent up anger because she's like, all you did was take out the trash and he wanted, he wants sex, then, because he took out the trash.
Yeah.
Like, really?
I see people now, and I'm so glad that you have created this platform. And I just want to give you your flowers right now
Mm,
for creating such a platform as a man because I see so much division between men and women. I see like there's already a spiritual attack on families in general. So I even though I'm single, I believe in love. I love love. I desire to be married one day. I saw a post. I think they were like, fellas, be honest. What's the reason why you and your baby mom didn't work out or whatever? And a lot of people were in there was like, I didn't know how she was going through postpartum. I thought she was just tripping. So I think that by having social media, a lot of people are learning things that they did not grow up knowing about. And it's unfortunate because for some people it's too late. Like that toxicity that developed that was brewing in
mm,
those situations, sometimes it's too late. And I always say, like, to people, cheating is not everybody's deal breaker.
right.
Feeling love, feeling respected is sometimes people's deal breaker. So even without cheating on the table, that's enough for people to walk away and be like, I'm done. So I'm thankful for you for providing a positive
Mm.
informative platform for men, for families in general, to be able to come on here and share your experiences and how you got to, because you said you were married before,
Yeah. I was married 15 years.
and I'm sure you had to change some things that you may have thought, so it's all about a learning experience.
Yeah. For sure. Oh yeah, there were some areas. Yeah, I sucked. I tell people, looking back, I was emotionally unavailable, doing a lot of stonewalling and just stupid stuff, just emotionally immature. But a lot of that came from me not, and this isn't no shade to mom, but that came from not having that emotional safety at home. Like growing up, we didn't have time for feelings. You know,
Yeah.
it was about getting the job done. It wasn't about how you felt. Like your feelings come and go. So that stunted my growth emotionally. But through therapy and prayer and having other men in my life and a good church home, I'm grateful for those things. Yeah, this platform is always and it's a slow growth. Believe me, when you take the healthy route, it's a slow burn. Believe me.
Yeah.
It's definitely worth it. Yeah, this platform is never men against women, but we gonna have conversations though, but it's always about one love and how can we grow together. So
Mhm.
yeah, for sure. There was a question I want to ask you real quick. What is your advice to single moms in co-parenting? I know this something that might seem like a big question, but it's like, how do you define like healthy co-parenting?
Okay, so that's a two-part question. So I have two examples. I have two different kids' fathers or whatever.
Right.
So I always say that I share a child with one. Now we both all get along, okay? Um, I share a child with one and then I co-parent with the other. And the main difference that I see is with my one that I share a child with, there's no there's no I'm always proactive. So when it comes to conferences for schools and stuff, I'm sending grades. I'm calling saying, hey, is there any concerns that you have? Do you want me to bring up anything? Because I'm the physical one that's here. And when my daughter lived back in Delaware, she didn't move down here initially.
Mhm.
And I had to put my pride aside. She was like, she wanted to stay there. So I'm like, this is her dad. I was always the primary parent or whatever, but I had to put my pride aside and I'm like, okay, we're going to try it out. However, if your grades and all that start slipping, I would ask for progress reports, conference. Oh, she doing good. She was running track and everything. My daughter had the worst grades her entire life. And I felt like, so I always try to put myself in somebody else's shoes. I felt like he felt that he had to stand to my expectations, that her actions were a reflection of him. And he was scared to tell me. You get what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
that's my example of sharing a child. Like you want to avoid certain things. You want to be her friend. You don't want to have these challenging
Mhm.
conversations because you're the more absent parent. You
Mhm.
rather just spoil her with all the wrong things.
Yep.
Now, when it comes to co-parenting, my daughter's father that I co-parent with, I'm like, hey, this happened. No, G, you right. I agree with you. Give yourself some grace. Like you doing it by yourself. It's more of an uplifting. It's more of a reinforcement. I agree with you. Like, okay, we're gonna do this. It's always a plan before we go ahead and take action. Like I always say, I like to be proactive versus reactive. So those are like the biggest things. When you share a child, y'all might not see if you stick to a schedule. Okay, you get them on this weekend. Ain't no other talking in between. Whereas when you co-parenting, y'all showing up at the events, it's one big family, you inviting everybody, you know what's on the grades. We celebrating, okay, the birthday on this day. How can I get there? When they coming here? Like it's a difference. You'll feel different. It's like a weight lifted off my shoulder, knowing that I don't have to sit up there and think about everything by myself, even though we're not in that relationship.
Gotcha.
So that's how I would like pretty much describe that. And you said, what advice would I give?
Yeah, like what advice would you give to
Yeah.
to the single mom? Maybe they don't have
Co-parent,
to. Mhm.
co-parent,
Mhm.
co-parent. If you were the one that primarily has your kids 7 days a week, don't sit up there and allow yourself to be bitter. Oh, I'm doing this. I do this 24/7. Send kids to their dad. Like, get you a break. You know what I mean? Like, don't try to be so prideful to the point to where it's hurting you. Because there's no way for you to pour back into yourself if you're constantly worried about other things. In the summertime, I ain't paying for nothing. I'm not sending nothing. you with your dad. I do this all year round. Like, get your break in. Try to figure out a way to where you both are able, and it's going to be hard because I'm states away. So just relinquishing that control. But again, that's where the accountability. This is who I laid down with. This is ultimately, I gotta trust and believe that they have my kids' best interest just as I do. When even with them not being here, I feel like I gotta go the extra mile to make sure nothing happens on my watch because I've already deprived them of not being able to see them 24/7. You know what I mean? So, co-parent.
Yeah, that's good. No,
Put
I
your
like
pride
that.
aside. Let that man parent.
Mm, I love that. Yeah, that's gonna preach. That's a clip right there. Because I think a lot of moms struggle with what's gonna happen to my baby,
Yeah.
and it's like, well, if
You send them to
y'all lay
daycare all
together,
day. They go to school all day. Like you're not able to be with your kids 24/7.
yeah,
And again, like I could sit up there and say so many things, but ultimately I chose to look past all that. You can't change a red flag to green. Once you sit up there and cross some lines, and I'm not talking about anybody that was S8, that was
right.
chose to keep, no, somebody that participated and made a child with somebody, you just as responsible. So, like, why try to hold on to that control? Why try to make somebody else's life miserable and deprive your kid? You can't love your kid if you're trying to keep them from the other person that created them. If they're not gang banging, if they're not irresponsible, they might be on their mom couch. But that's where they was at when you met them. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. It is what it is.
So you met him on the couch, huh? Y'all
Yeah.
was on the couch. Y'all made
He
some
was
stuff
at one,
happen on the
he was at
couch.
the other end. Taking footsies and stuff. Like, come on now.
Yeah. No, that's good because I do believe that especially boys, I think boys should spend some time with their dads. I think they should, at least after the age of maybe 7 or 8, go spend a year or two or summers.
Yeah,
You
get
know what
your
I'm saying?
break. And
Yeah.
for the men, I was fortunate enough to have my dad in my life or whatever. Um, but when it came to my older brother, like I said, we have the same mom and dad. And my mom and dad went to court to establish custody for my brother. Men, stop leaving the control in these women's hands. Like, I feel like even if my dad wasn't in my life, I would want to know that my dad went tooth and nail. Like a lot of men be like, I don't want the government involved and da 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 da. So you rather deal with all this and not see your child? I always say, like, people, when I see men that think like that, I'll be like, oh, so you like the commitment of a family without the responsibility. You know what I mean? You like the look of a family without the commitment to a family. Because ain't nobody stopping me from being a mom.
Mhm.
And I'm not going to stop my kids' fathers from being a dad. So, men, if you are having a problem, or even women, this could be, I don't want to generalize it, but 9 times out of 10, men are like, oh, she tripping, she won't let me see my son, and da da da. Go to court, pay them warrants, or whatever you fearful of going to the court for. They ain't gonna lock you up. Go. Judges be wanting to see a parent step up and want to be involved. Like, you might not want to get the courts involved, but your kid is going. And they always say the truth always comes to the light. Fight for your kids if you don't do nothing else, because you was fighting for that relationship for a long time. You was fighting for that spot on the couch for a long time. Fight for your kids if you
I
don't do nothing else.
mhm. I love that. And I think too, kids should spend that time with their biological parent. Because even we have a blended family, right? But it's something about a biological parent that you need to see you.
Mm-hmm.
Blended families, I get it. But seeing your biological parents, spending that time, and even if the relationship isn't the best, you still get that experience.
Yeah.
Because that way you don't have to talk bad about your child's mom or the father. It's like, no, let them experience their
Yeah.
parent. And then that way they can make their own decision because the worst thing that can happen is you hold your child from the parent, and then they get older, they're gonna end up resenting you because they're gonna think that you was holding them back.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
man.
there's always two sides to the story. And the child is going to sit up there and be able to say, like, Mom, you still tripping. So I know, like, my dad wasn't, like, my dad was always the calm one. He, like, well, you know how your mom is. He would never say nothing negative, but he would always just be like, well, you know how your mom is. And just seeing both sides, I'm like, okay, this is not what I want. Like, my mom and dad were not able to be in the same room with one another until we were at my brother's baby shower. So we good and grown, graduated, everything. So I'm just like, this ain't gonna be. Like, you have no control. Everybody, you be happy in a moment to where you doing the action, but you have no way of knowing whether or not those relationships are going to pan out to be what they are in that moment.
Mhm.
So I just don't want that. I didn't want that for my kids. And it didn't always start off as a healthy relationship, but we all have one goal, and that's just to raise successful, healthy, productive members of society. So
Yes. Totally agree. Yeah, we got off track. I had these questions, but that's okay. This was supposed to happen. This was supposed to happen because there's still other questions I wanted to ask because I'll shelf it for another time. You have to come back
okay.
because there was some controversy I created, and it wasn't intentional. It was just a question. It was like, how do you know if this man is going to be a good father? And I did a video on these are some signs that you can spot to tell if he's going to be a deadbeat or not. I believe there's some things that you can see before you get into bed that you can see. I can spot a deadbeat dad, and I know no shade. So people in the comments, if you're watching this video, we just having a conversation, but it's just like women can tell when other women are flirting with their man.
You know.
Men, yeah, men
Yeah.
can tell other men that he'll be a deadbeat. I see him. Yep, yep. So and I did a video on it, and one of those tips I talked about it. I won't talk about it in detail, but I was saying like, is he a finisher? Like, ask him what was the last thing that you finished? Did you
That's good.
did you finish the college degree? Something that you started but you didn't finish. Did you finish writing the book? Did you finish reading the book? I mean,
That's good.
guys, they still reading five love languages, and they ain't read that. It's been 30 years. You ain't finished reading the book yet. These are things,
And there's too many resources. You got audibles now that'll sit up there and read it for you. Like,
yeah, yeah. Is he a finisher? Ask him those questions, and if he's not a finisher, more than likely he's not going to be
hmm
he's going to be a deadbeat dad because he can't finish what he start. But that's another show for another time.
yeah. And just to add as quickly, I know you got time and everything, but I mean, you got other things. But another thing is make sure you got the proper definition of a deadbeat.
That's
Because a lot of people think like, oh, well, he doesn't make the money. He's not on my level. You know what I mean? Like, I became very goal driven by being a mom. You know what I mean? I completed 3 degrees. I came up in my career, been at my job for 21 years. And my first daughter's dad, you fighting for hours with, never mind all that. But that's what I'm saying. But he's a present father. Like, it's never been a moment. So just because a person has not, his goals may not be my goals. He might be comfortable in the environment that he's in. So it's not in no way to shade or anything like that. But make sure you got a clear definition because everybody not a deadbeat. Everybody's not a deadbeat just because they don't live up to your expectations.
That's good. I like that. Yeah, because and don't get me wrong, shout out to the dads. I'm not this isn't to beat up men in no shape
Yeah.
or fashion.
And you got some women that's deadbeat.
Women, what's up with the women falling off? Yeah, some of these
Yeah,
out
you
here
you got some
bugging.
women. Yeah, and you got some people from the older generation that are judging these women for like, oh, I need a mental health day, or their dad doing it. Like you got some moms that like, oh, well, you the mom, but where the mom at? No, you in a relationship.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
yeah,
you have to come back because we have to finish this. Yeah, this is the whole
this was good. This was
yeah.
good.
For sure. How time flies. Jatan, let everyone know how they can get in touch with you. Tell us about the YouTube channel, all that other good stuff.
So to make it easy for y'all, I try to keep my name the same on everything. I'm under all ALL things, THINGS, Jaton, GETON. Again, that's all things Japan. I'm very active on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. So those are all the platforms. And if you find me on YouTube, all of my information will be linked there as well.
Mhm. Awesome. And I'll have that linked up in the description below. So make sure you go and check out her channel. Make sure you connect with her on Instagram, all that other good stuff. 'Cause I think I might have found you on Threads or something.
Yeah, yeah,
I joined
yeah.
Chris. Yeah, so subscribe to the channel. Love it. So thanks again for being a guest. Brave Hearts community, hit the subscribe button, share this video with someone you never know who need it. Share it in your group chat. So when the video go up, put it in your group chat and y'all can watch the video and then y'all have a conversation. So share it
Yeah.
in your group chat. And also, if you are listening to this via podcast, make sure you hit the subscribe button, leave a rating and review. By doing so, it'll put you in a drawing for a free Amazon gift card. Who doesn't like free stuff? This is Sean.
Amen. Keep doing good work.
Thank you. With special guest.
Just fine. Have a good one.
All right, Brave Hearts community. Take care.